So we have some more rumors in regards to Resident Evil 9, including who will be the protagonist of the game, and also some rumors in regards to Resident Evil 1 Remake getting the remake treatment. I know, it sounds kind of crazy, but stick with me here. So starting off first with that information about Resident Evil 9. This comes to us from a Twitter account by the name of pre_alarabia. Now this account is verified, but take that with a massive grain of salt. Any account on Twitter these days can buy a blue check mark and claim that they're legit. And on top of that, Capcom has not come out and said anything about Resident Evil 9. They've not teased anything or said anything about who the protagonist is going to be. And as usual with Japanese game development, things can change pretty much at the drop of a hat. Take for example a game like Sekiro, that originally started off as a brand new Tenchu game, but so much changed in the development process for that game that they just made it Sekiro, something completely new and different. So again, take a lot of salt with this information. So starting off first, they say we have received some info about the 9th part of Special Source, and we will share it with you in this tweet. First, they say Leon Kennedy will be the main character in the game's introduction. The source does not know why only the game's introduction was mentioned, as the character may change with the passage of events. And funny enough, they actually had to issue a clarification a few hours later by saying that Leon won't be the main character for the game's introduction only, he's going to be the main character for the full game. The game will be led by Leon. So I just wanted to include that clarification right up front. They continue by saying in the introduction, the region will be Southeast Asia, as Dusk Golem mentioned previously, and also as in the case with the first info, the region may change with the passage of events. The events of the story will take place in the summer of 2025, which means that Leon's age will be 48 years old at that time, which is pretty sick. Now there were some rumors going around that Chris Redfield would be the main character protagonist for Resident Evil 9. That apparently is now disproven with this rumor in this leaker claiming that Leon will in fact be the main character in Southeast Asia for whatever reason. However, there has still been some rumors around there saying that not only will the region itself change with the passing of events, but potentially the characters as well. But based on this info, it really does sound like it's going to be a Leon-esque story and not a big open world adventure with a bunch of characters like Chris, Jill, Claire, whatnot. So not only will we be allegedly getting Leon, we're going to get older Leon, current day 48-year-old Leon. And we've seen an older Leon in the Resident Evil movies, but this is the first time I believe we're going to actually really play as an older Leon, because I don't remember how old he was in Resident Evil 6. Now, one thing I'm really interested in is who's going to voice Leon. Traditionally, Matthew Mercer has been the voice of Leon for a lot of the older roles. There's been a few other voice actors doing that as well, but Matt Mercer I think has been one of the more prominent voice actors for Leon. And then of course you have Nick Apostolides, who came on board with the Resident Evil 2 remake and also voiced Leon in Resident Evil 4. So he's kind of like the younger version of Leon. And if I remember correctly, Nick was originally supposed to voice Leon in Resident Evil Death Island, but unfortunately there were some scheduling issues, so they had Matt Mercer come on board to reprise the role of Leon. So I'm very curious to see who they're going to go with for this next iteration. I love both performers. They both add something different to Leon. I love Matt's more grizzled older version of the character, but I also think Nick does a really incredible job in that role as well. And I kind of think they should maybe stay consistent and have Nick come back and play this older version of Leon. And it would be really cool to hear his take on a 48-year-old Leon S. Kennedy, who's still a badass doing cool things, but this time he's much more experienced. So I'm very curious to hopefully hear that performance whenever this game does eventually happen. Now, even though the rumors are Leon being the main protagonist, I'm still hoping that some other characters do show up. Obviously, I love Chris Redfield. He's a fantastic character, and I'd really love to see what he's doing after Resident Evil Village. Where is he currently stationed? What company is he working for? Who's his team? And then of course we have everyone's favorite heroine, one of my personal favorites as well, Jill Valentine. I love Jill. A lot of people kind of feel like she was done a little bit dirty in the Resident Evil 3 remake, unfortunately. I don't think that was a bad game by any means, but it didn't really feel like it had that same stamp of quality on it that a game like Resident Evil 2 Remake had. RE3 was just missing so much from the original game. There were so many locations cut from it, iconic moments, and the whole pacing of the game just felt really fast. And you really didn't spend all that much time in Raccoon City as Jill getting to explore. And a lot of the moments with Nemesis were all technically scripted events, so a lot of the times when you ran into him, it didn't really feel fun and exciting like it should have been, like Mr. X was in Resident Evil 2, for example. But it would really be nice to have Jill come back and just, be in a better game, update her story, and show us what she's doing, after something like Death Island. But either way, it's going to be great to have Leon back, and what he's doing in Southeast Asia, we don't know, but I'm really excited to see if this stuff does get confirmed. The account goes on to say this info is almost certain because it is from a reliable source that our own source reported to us. But then he mentioned that he heard another piece of news, but he is not sure about it, which is that Resident Evil 1 Remake will be released in 2026. But what makes this possible? Director Kawada previously stated that it appears Capcom is preparing something for the series' 30th anniversary and concluded his statement by saying details are secret. And then the account goes on to talk about the 30th anniversary of the Resident Evil franchise, which will be taking place in 2026, so it would make sense for them to do something big and special like remaking the original remake of Resident Evil 1 and releasing that for the 30th anniversary, which again, gotta take all of this info with a massive grain of salt. But switching over to Resident Evil 1 Remake, getting a remake. I know that's been memed to hell and back, just remake the remake, it's gonna happen. And yeah, I think we all kind of expected that to happen, and personally, I'm kind of okay with it. RE1 Remake, to this day, is not only still one of the best looking GameCube games ever, it's an incredible game, period. The way they were able to reimagine RE1, the characters, the environments, the enemies, kind of take a different approach to the tank controls to a degree. I thought that game was really, really well done, and it felt like such a massive jump from a lot of the previous Resident Evils that we had gotten. It felt like they were really going cinematic with it. And if you just take the RE1 Remake and just give it the current day remake treatment with the over-the-shoulder camera, some of the new gunplay mechanics, some of the melee stuff and items and crafting, I think you could take an already incredible remake and maybe make it just as good, if not better. Now, would they change anything with the remake of the remake in terms of the scenarios and how the story plays out, structure? I don't know if they would go that far. They may want to, though. Again, I brought this up in the previous Resident Evil video, but it really feels like a lot of the current day RE remakes are kind of setting their own new tone and new timeline. And it feels like Capcom really wants those games in particular to kind of stick together into one timeline and kind of be cohesive with one another, take place in the same universe, so to speak, because RE7 was such a shift for the franchise, and even though it still takes place within the Resident Evil universe, it kind of feels like this is an opportunity for them to kind of maybe reimagine or re-envision certain things, clean up the timeline a little bit, change some stuff here and there, retcon some weird scenarios in some of the previous games. You never know what's going to happen. But either way, the next few years are going to be very interesting when it comes to the Resident Evil franchise, especially with that 30th anniversary being on the horizon. And if you made it this far into the video, go ahead in the comments down below, drop a "I hope this isn't Chris's blood" to let me know you finished the video. But with that being said, let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of these rumors? Do you think Leon will in fact be the protagonist in the first portion of the game? And is there any other characters that you would like to see come back into the spotlight, a la Jill? And of course, do you want a Resident Evil 1 remake? It sounds silly saying it, but I think if done right, like they have been doing so far with the Resident Evil remakes, it could be really sick. I'm Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.